Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine here with Ted Ings. Today we have an incredible panel with us, Ted, and we're going to be talking about how to have better integrated payments.
We've got experts in the field here with us today. Sam Thompson is with us, payment technology strategist with PayJunction. And we also want to welcome an industry leading subject matter expert, Don Andres from Auto SCT Consulting and Training. Sam and Don, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Great to be back, Ted. Thanks for having us on, and we can talk about something that's new and exciting.
Well, Don, to kick things off, dealerships are thinking a lot about their business strategies right now, and I'm just curious, why should dealership leaders rethink specifically payments right now?
Yeah, right. It's always been an afterthought, hasn't it? It's just one of those things. We do everything right. Now we just collect the money, and that is something that has really become top of mind. Certainly, 20 groups talk a lot about it, and we're starting to realize there's a real expense that's built into these payment structures. And so the end result is people are taking more focus with it ever today. Now, that's great on the surface, but for me, when I go into stores, when I engage, 75% of my time I'm talking with service advisors, is now they're suddenly introducing that right in the drive. We do like self-cashiering because the person that's been engaging the whole time with the customer is now going to collect the money at the end and make sure that that visit went well instead of, sending them to the cashier line, right? So we love that part of it, but trying to incorporate these new strategies in with this idea of self-cashiering, it is adding more to the plate of that advisor. So this has been something that I've been in enough stores to see it in action, had conversations with writers, and there's been some mix back and forth on how that's progressing.
Yeah, and from the leadership perspective, I think it really boils down to two main reasons. So the first one, payment processing is really one of the few controllable expense categories left in the car business. And to be honest, many of the groups that we speak to are frankly just leaving money on the table. Mm-hmm. Second, there's this long-standing belief that they're locked into whatever payment solution comes bundled with the DMS. And that's just not the case anymore. So what we do is we give dealerships the freedom to choose a better integrated payment solution without overhauling their entire workflows for their service advisors. So what does that actually mean in practicality? It means that they're not changing their workflows or having to be retrained. So all of that comes off of the advisors. Second, dealership wide, there's not going to be a lengthy implementation cycle like as there would be with another software. All in all, this gives dealerships the control over their operations and the net profit. And this new technology makes payments a strategic financial and operational advantage, not just something that processes transactions.
Sam, if I could, let me follow up with you. You mentioned integrated payments. For our audience, what are integrated payments and why should dealers care?
That's a really good question. So to put very simply, integrated payments live inside of the DMS and automatically sync information between the two systems. What this means for advisors is less tabs, less manual entry between the two systems. We know advisors have many windows already open on their screen, and this is just one less tab. But it goes beyond speed at the point of sale. Because it's less typing, there's less human error on that data, and that reduces that back office cleanup at the end of the month when reconciliation rolls around. And I mean, on top of that, the integration actually makes it so there's less systems and less dashboards. It's just one system to look through at the end of the month when it comes time for reconciliation.
Yeah, I think, it's funny because that is one of the biggest fears that dealers have. They love the idea of being able to do self-cashiering, but they're so paranoid about the reconciliation part because the office staff has had to be worn out about trying to get that done after, yesterday's business. So it is great to see this integration finally happening. But you bring up a great point. I was in a store not that long ago, didn't have the integration, and here was the advisor having to load all this stuff into screens And a great point,
Yeah.
didn't even think about, is this idea of there's a chance of errors happening there as well too. So yeah, I think getting that figured out and making that seamless where everybody wins transitions to what I really want. And I want that level of engagement to go right from start to finish.
Don, to pivot a little bit, one topic that we've heard a lot about from dealerships is surcharging. It's been a hot topic for dealers looking to increase net profit right now. But what should dealers understand specifically about surcharging?
Well, first of all, it's a big number, right? The amount that just naturally ends up being an expense line. I talk about this often. We end up really having a good month in gross on the labor side and even the part side as well too, and then suddenly some of that gets depleted away in the expense side on a financial statement. And one of the big numbers that just jumps off that every time off the table is in fact these expenses for charging for credit card usage, right? And so I think 20 groups are the one that said, hey, this thing's jumping off the page. And so on the surface, it seemed really simple to say, well, let's see if we can introduce this then to customers. Well, no, there's a lot of compliance issues with that. The customer needs to know. So almost overnight, as they had launched these, we found advisors having to now suddenly be compliance police. They started to have word tracks that allowed the customer this ability to understand there's going to be a charge involved with it. It's going to show up on your paperwork and your receipts. And oh my gosh, now it's that conversation at the end of a visit. So early on, the unintended consequences that came out of this nice initiative has been a little more challenging. It's been a little more challenging.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, Don. And I'll jump into that a second. But I think one thing I wanted to touch on first was just the competitive landscape of dealerships in general. So a lot of the stores that we talk to, they're hesitant about surcharging because they don't want to be the first in the area to start this program. And that's really interesting when you start looking at some of the numbers. So we ran a survey in 2024, and it looked like around a quarter of dealerships were surcharging. In 2025, the following year, after aggregating some data, that number looks to rise to about 36%. And even more interesting, at 2026 at NADA, it seemed like the majority of dealerships that we were speaking to were either already surcharging or very, very interested in surcharging. So the second thing from like a net profit perspective is that it's entirely dependent on staying compliant when it comes to state laws and card branding rules. Generally speaking, those rules include credit-only application, a maximum of 3% or the cost of acceptance, equal percentage across the card brands like Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express, required signage at the point of sale and at the entry and compliant receipts. And there are even bigger nuances like between the states, with some not allowing surcharging entirely. And maintaining compliance could be an entirely different webinar, so I don't want to get too far down that rabbit hole. But with all of that being said, automation and automating those compliance tasks is essential for mitigating the risk and ultimately protecting and increasing that net profit. I've spoken to a couple dealerships that have implemented our smart surcharge, and they came back to us with no customer complaints and no reported impact on CSI scores. And what we largely attribute this to is automation of those key compliance tasks, because we found that the root cause of the dissatisfaction within customers is a result of that human error, right? So to speak on the self-cashiering aspect of it, our customer-facing terminals will sit either right on the desk or within the advisor's hand, and those display the credit price with the surcharge or the debit price without. So the customers know that they have the freedom to use whatever payment method works better for them. If they want to collect the points with a credit card and a surcharge, so be it. And if they want to just avoid that entirely and pay with a debit card, they have that control. And the other built-in safeguards we have include debit exclusion, the receipts that Don talked about, signage at the terminals, and the customer right to cancel functionality. I think this is missed a lot of times because some of these terminals will sit in the back office or behind the desk, and the customers can't really see what's going on, and they additionally don't have the right to cancel that transaction, which is a compliance requirement. But with all of that being said, the CSI protection, increasing your net profit via surcharging, they all play a role in it, and it's not mutually exclusive.
Yep. And Sam, that word compliance, you've mentioned it several times, is a huge factor. And I think the dealer really needs a specialist who can help them and guide them in this area, who knows the ins and outs. Sam, what kind of savings are realistic with the surcharge?
That's a great question, Ted. So every dealership is going to be different. Like we mentioned earlier, this is payment processing fees are a result of how much revenue you're bringing in. To give a quick example, we were chatting with a dealership at the show who were spending nearly $40,000 in 1 month on processing fees. That's a lot of money. After they implemented Smart Surcharge, their monthly net cost dropped to about $6,000. That's offsetting almost 70% of their credit card processing fees and 85% of their total bill.
Wow.
And to pair that with the financial savings, right?
Yeah.
The operational gains are huge. The implementation required would cause very minimal disruption. I was talking to the controller and she mentioned she had some fears going into it. She was worried that this whole thing was going to take over a week to set up. And when the system is that easy and it takes the pressure off of the advisors, she felt fully comfortable with the system in less than 2 hours. And when you pair, again, those operational savings with the financial savings, you're left with a significant improvement to the bottom line, which only compounds for multi-store operators.
And Don, I think from your experience and certainly mine and Sarah's and Sam's, a lot of customers pay for those service bills they use a credit card for that. So that is not out of the ordinary, the numbers that Sam is talking to us about.
You're absolutely right. First of all, we are seeing it more today than we ever have, right? Depending on where you live, what state, you're going to see this paying by credit being a surcharge. It just naturally is happening, whether it's restaurants and things of that nature. Medical industry is a big industry for that. But what's interesting is we're still talking about people, and whether it's a cashier that has been with them for 20 years and she's got this client base that loves to see her or him, or whether it's the advisors, it's the inconsistency that really is always the fear that we see with dealers. It's always the inconsistency. What is that individual going to do? How are they defending this surcharge with this client base? And is it going to affect CSI? Well, it turns out this particular product, the one that surprised me when I decided to spend some time at NADA and just I looked at all of them, but I was looking at this one and I went, wait a minute, you removed a lot of that. You put that onus right on the client in that moment where they can make that decision. Do I want to pay with a debit card? Do I want to pay with a credit card? Do I want to pay another way in that moment? And that was pretty powerful and pretty consistent. And so CSI, this idea of, oh my goodness, suddenly is starting to finally soften and realize it's not going to affect that. They make the choice in that moment. And so you still keep that great relationship going. And now you save some money.
We're here with Don Andres and Sam Thompson and talking about the solutions that PayJunction assists dealers with to have better integrated payments. Sam, for our audience that is curious to learn more and find out what solutions may be available for their dealerships in their market and their state, what's the best first step to get started?
Yeah, you can reach out to any one of us on LinkedIn, or of course, reach out via our website at payjunction.com. And we'll have somebody from our team reach out shortly.
Great information, gentlemen. Thank you. Wonderful job, Don Andres, Sam Thompson, PayJunction. PayJunction can be reached, everybody. You could see there, as Sam said, on the web, payjunction.com. Also, reach out to either of these gentlemen on LinkedIn. What a very timely topic, Don. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing this and the wisdom from retail as well. So great stuff. All right, everybody. PayJunction here with us today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.